Good morning, my Real News Midday TV family. Thank you so much for tuning in this morning for another news update for Tuesday, November 18, 2025. And I'm wishing for everyone a wonderful and a productive day. And in the news this morning, court rejects the claims of nullity in Reid-CMU fraud case, trial to proceed. Senior Parish Judge Sancho Burrell yesterday cleared the way for the continuation of the long-running multi-million-dollar fraud trial involving former Education Minister Roel Reid and his co-accused after dismissing two major objections from the defense, including a claim that the proceedings were a nullity. The primary objection, led by attorney Hugh Wildman, focused on alleged procedural errors in the indictment. Wildman argued that 14 summary offenses listed on the indictment had no corresponding information. Number 1, a defeat the prosecution conceded. Representing former Caribbean Maritime University head Professor Fritz Pinnock, Wildman contended that the reference to non-existent information rendered the indictment void. His position was echoed by other defense attorneys, including Oswest Senior Smith, who urged the court to withdraw the charges against the co-accused Kim Brown Lawrence on that basis. Judge Burrell firmly rejected those arguments, while agreeing that the Crown could have been more precise in drafting the indictment. She wrote that the missing information numbers for special statutory summary offenses did not invalidate the indictment or stop the trial. Inclusion of those offenses, while procedurally imperfect, is not fatal to the validity of the indictment, she ruled, warning that accepting the defense's position would lead to an absurdity. In her reasoning, Judge Burrell cited the legislative framework governing parish courts, noting that the 2018 amendment to Section 22 of the Criminal Justice Administration Act allows the summary and indictable offenses to be tried together once statutory conditions are satisfied. She explained that these special summary offenses remain summary in nature even when listed on an indictment for joint trial, and that the absence of related amendments to the Parish Courts Act does not create any legal defeat. She concluded that the defense objections had no foundation. The trial shall proceed accordingly, she ordered. In a separate ruling, Judge Burrell dismissed objections to the admissibility of a redacted document and a photograph used to identify a now-deceased witness, whose statement the Crown seeks to admit under Section 31D of the Evidence Act. She held that the document was relevant, did not breach the hearsay rule, and that even if the photograph was improperly obtained, Jamaica common law allows the admission of unlawfully gathered evidence when it is relevant. She added that while the Financial Investigations Division Act imposes confidentiality obligations, it does not create an exclusionary rule that overrides the common law principles. After the ruling, the third witness, a detective sergeant from the Major Organized Crime and Anti-Corruption Agency, completed her evidence. She identified the deceased witness, Reid's driver, and confirmed collecting his statement in April 2019 without offering inducements or making threats. She also identified the statement that she had collected. The prosecution later advanced the submissions in a voir dire which will determine whether the statement can be admitted. The trial resumes today, with the judges ruling on that application. Reid, his wife Sharon, their daughter Sherelle, Pinnock, and the JLP counselor Brown Lawrence are accused of participating in a scheme to defraud the Education Ministry and the CMU of more than $25 million. Rising demand strains the supply for U.S. shippers as Jamaicans rush to send hurricane relief. As relief efforts intensify following the devastation caused by Hurricane Melissa, shippers in the United States say they are now grappling with a shortage of barrels needed to send the supplies to Jamaica. Several major Jamaican-owned shipping companies reported that they have been forced to ration barrels due to a sharp decline in deliveries from manufacturers. Dennis Hawthorne, head of the Brooklyn-based Dennis Shipping, confirmed that his company has seen a noticeable drop in the number of barrels it receives. "We have seen a reduction in the supplies of barrels," he told the news. "We have been getting calls for barrels, and we have seen such an overwhelming outpouring of support that we are doing everything we can to ensure that supplies reach Jamaica." With an overwhelming outpouring of support from Jamaicans overseas eager to send the relief items, Hawthorne said his team has been working literally 24/7 to keep shipments moving. He urged the persons unable to access barrels to instead use the boxes to send their supplies. His company has also discounted shipping fees, though he said waiving them entirely is not possible. Shipping consultant and the former transcontinental shipping head, Bobby D'Souza, also confirmed the shortage. "We are just not getting the kind of supplies from the manufacturer as we have in the past," he told the news, attributing the decline to increased demand for non-profit and community groups shipping aid to Jamaica. D'Souza said he has reduced the retail price of barrels to help offset the shipping cost for donors. Meanwhile, philanthropist Dr. Trisha Bailey told the news that she has not encountered a shortage but has offered to connect shippers to a barrel manufacturer in China. Bailey recently sent a plane load of relief supplies to Jamaica and declared a container over the weekend. Another container, packed with mostly building materials, is expected to arrive in the coming weeks. D'Souza, however, cautioned that sourcing barrels from China is not practical due to long shipping times and high tariffs. The news attempted to contact Grief Bros Manufacturing in New Jersey, the main supplier from which most shippers purchase barrels, but messages were not returned. Motley calls for fiscal space to help Jamaica bounce back from Melissa. Barbados Prime Minister Mia Amor Motley has called for urgent international support to ensure Jamaica gets the fiscal breathing room it needs to rebuild after Hurricane Melissa. Motley made the appeal during a CARICOM leaders tour of hard-hit communities in Westmoreland on Monday, warning that Jamaica's revenue losses and extensive infrastructure damage require immediate global intervention to avoid slowing the country's recovery. Jamaica must know that it does not walk alone in this moment, she said. This year, it is Jamaica. Next year, it will be one of us, and it is important that we retain that solidarity. Motley said the destruction in 5 parishes, combined with the likely loss of government revenue over the coming months, requires a decisive intervention from the international community. She expressed hope that Jamaica's partners would help create an environment where Prime Minister Andrew Holness's administration can focus entirely on rebuilding without the fiscal constraints. "We must create an opportunity where your government can focus purely on rebuilding," she said, "and also bridge the loss of revenue that will obviously take place for the next 9 months, 2 years, however long it may be. The biggest contribution we can make is to work with the international community to give you the elbow room, the fiscal space you need." The Barbadian leader noted that Jamaica had been on track to reach its fiscal anchor of 60% debt to GDP before the storm, but said Melissa's impact will inevitably alter that trajectory. She compared the moment to the economic upheaval of the COVID-19 pandemic, which forced Barbados to reset but ultimately recover. "We went through the same thing during COVID," she said. "We recovered from it, and I have every confidence that Jamaica will recover from this moment." Motley confirmed that Barbados has already dispatched a field hospital to support the displaced residents. She emphasized the scale of Jamaica's crisis, noting that the number of people left without shelter exceeds 3 times Barbados' entire population. In addition to medical support, Barbados is sending further relief, including garbage compactor trucks, tarpaulins, generators, and immediate food supplies sourced from Trinidad. She said the region must respond quickly, describing disaster recovery as a continuous race against the time to restore normalcy to affected communities. Motley also praised the broader CARICOM response, pointing to Guyana's decision to deploy Guyana Defensive Force engineers to repair 200 roofs in Westmoreland, and Antigua and Barbuda's commitment to the relief effort. She said the moment reflects the essence of regional cooperation. This is why we are a community, she said, because in times like these, the community draws strength from each other and supports each other. She endorsed the Wholeness's goal of getting families under some form of shelter before Christmas, saying the experience of surviving such a disaster often deepens a community's resolve to rebuild stronger and better. I believe the individuals who have gone through this will now have a greater passion for why they must work together to make their communities and their country the best it can be, she said. Guys, thanks for watching. Please join us this afternoon at 2 p.m. for another news update.